I am so excited to be back with you guys. Today, I am here with Elle Russ. Elle is a #1 best-selling author, world-renowned thyroid expert, and master coach. For over a decade, Elle has successfully coached clients all around the globe through her books, public speaking appearances, online courses, and private and group coaching. Elle educates, inspires, and motivates. Elle is the author of Confident as Fuck, which I love, and the Paleo Thyroid Solution, which I also love, a book which has helped thousands of people around the world reclaim their health and inspired Elle to create the most comprehensive thyroid course available called the Ultimate Thyroid Course. Welcome, Elle. Thank you for being here and for being a part of the Manifest.
Oh, thanks. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited that people are showing up and are interested in revitalizing their health. It's really possible, and it's never too late. I don't care how old you are, you can really turn it around. So I'm so glad you're offering this for everyone.
Perfect. Well, I want us to dig into thyroid basics. I feel that the word thyroid gets thrown around so much in the health community, but nobody really understands what it is or what it does. So, are you okay with us bringing it to the most basic level? For our listeners who are not familiar, could you briefly explain what the thyroid is and why it's important?
Sure. So if you're watching right now, and if you're listening, it's fine, but I'm gesturing with my hands. Your thyroid gland, if you're a man, and you can just visualize it anyways, below their Adam apple. So with women, we don't have Adam's apple, but it's at the base of our neck. And it's a butterfly shaped gland that kind of wraps the neck there a little bit, just right there at the bottom of the neck. And it is the master gland of the human body. Not because I say so, just because science says so. And the reason is because the thyroid is in charge of so many things. So if it's off, so many things get off. For example, the thyroid is in charge of the production and regulation of your sex hormones. So, oh, I have a hormonal imbalance. Do you? Or do you have a thyroid problem causing the hormonal imbalance? And when you fix the thyroid problem, the hormonal imbalance goes away. You get it. The other thing, so it is in charge of our temperature, our body temperature. As humans, we are like the story Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold, just right. So for humans, we're usually 98.6 in the afternoon. I'm going by US metrics. And we're, in the morning about 97.7 to 98.2. Now, you don't need to fit exactly there, but you could even tell if you had a thyroid problem by taking 5 days of your basal and your afternoon temps. Because if they are below a certain level and you're the person that's freezing all the time and you know who you are because you're cold in summer and no one else is cold and you're always cold, that is likely a thyroid problem. So our temperature. So a lot of problems happen there because if our temperature is not right, enzymatic processes, things are not, things. Now we've got domino effect cascade of symptoms. All right. So sex hormones, your temperature, your heart rate. So when you are hyperthyroid, meaning overactive, too much, which is very rare, it happens, but hypothyroidism, underactive, is much more common. When you're hyper, it could kill you because it raises your heart rate to the point where you could have a heart attack. It's an extremely dangerous situation to have. However, on the other hand, when you're hypothyroid, your heart rate gets so low that it's like, oh my God, do you even have a pulse? Are you alive? Right? So that's how it swings. And we need to be like sort of right in the middle, not too hot, not too cold, not too high heart rate, not too low. And then, of course, the wonderful balance of thyroid hormones. And so here's what happens. Thyroid hormones also have an extreme role in our brain. So, for example, cognitive abilities will start to go when you become hypothyroid, meaning underactive. So, some of those symptoms, and by the way, there are 30 to 40 symptoms on my website and also in my book. The reason there's such a wide variety of symptoms is because of what I'm telling you. So, like example, you have a hormonal imbalance, but it's really caused by the thyroid. Well, in that case, you're like, well, the doctor just sees that you're testing the hormones, but are you testing the thing that is behind it, right? Perfect example. I always give this one. A 25-year-old male came to me. He had low testosterone and his doctor had put him on testosterone. Now, the first question that doctor should have asked is, why is a 25-year-old man low in testosterone? Because that shouldn't happen. But instead of going, well, that's not right. The guy's not a 90-year-old male where, it's obvious. So he's 25 years old. Why does he have low testosterone? Instead of asking that question and getting to the bottom of it, which would have been to check the thyroid first, the doctor gave him testosterone and it didn't work to make him feel better. He came to me We looked into it. He had a horrible thyroid problem. He fixed the thyroid problem. You get rid of the testosterone, and his testosterone will come back. Now, it may not do that at a woman who's 53 years old. You know what I mean? You get her thyroid back, it's not necessarily going to have periods again. But when we're talking, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens. Or depression. So we have more receptors in our brain for the thyroid hormone than anywhere else. So you often have brain fog is a very common symptom. Mixing up words, not being able to retain information, speaking words backwards like a dyslexic. You can't come up with the words, you can't figure it out. You're like, I don't even remember my mom's phone number that you've known your whole life. And it's scary because you feel like you're getting dumb on the inside, and it's a hard thing to express. And that's why I bring it up, because a lot of people don't express it. So, I mean, that right there is a lot. But the cascade and the domino effect from the thyroid being off goes to so many symptoms, like, oh, I have dry, cracked skin and heels. So now your doctor's like, well, let's do that. Oh, I have depression. I'm not thinking right. Oh, let's put you on ADD medication. Oh, let's put you on Prozac. That Prozac will last 3 months and then it won't work because you never got to the root of the problem. So before you go on a statin, a blood pressure medication, a hormone, any of these things, you have to rule out the thyroid. And the problem is, and this is why I'm out here, I shouldn't be a number one best-selling author. I don't have an MD. I shouldn't be a best-selling author. I had to get myself out of this situation twice in a decade. I live in Los Angeles with the best doctors. Nobody could help me. I had to doctor myself. So I had to learn it. And people go, oh, what kind of insurance do you have? I had the best insurance. I spent $15,000 on famous hormone doctors that were in, celebrities' books and stuff for decades. Nobody could help me. I ended up helping myself, which is why I'm all for advocating education. You have to educate yourself so you can help you help yourself and help your doctor help you. So a couple of scenarios that happen. The brain stuff starts to go away. You're falling apart. You're exhausted. And then they're trying to do other things, like they'll test the thyroid incorrectly and they'll say, well, it's not your thyroid. You need to work out or eat less, or it's not that, it's not that. And then you walk out like I did, by the way. My thyroid was tested incorrectly. And the guy goes, not your thyroid. And it was my thyroid the entire time. And you would go, how can that happen? He got an MD from Harvard. Because they're steeped in 1970 outdated protocols. So I have a free thyroid masterclass, which has a free guide and all of the stuff, like way more than I'm saying here. But right now, because I am here, I just want to list these 6 main tests. There are many more, but these are the 6 tests to go, do I or do I not have some effery going on with my thyroid? Do I or do I not? And these 6 tests will tell you so much. It would tell me so much. So those 6 tests are TSH, free T4, free T3, reverse T3, and then you always want to rule out the autoimmune form of thyroid issues, which is called Hashimoto's. That's hypothyroidism. Graves' disease is the autoimmune form for hyper. I don't have Hashimoto's. I have regular hypothyroidism, but if you have the autoimmune form, it's very important to know. And usually doctors only test one antibody and not the other. So you need to get both tested. The first one is called TPO. It stands for thyroid peroxidase. The second one is called TG, stands for thyroglobulin. Those 6 tests. You wake up in the morning, you get tested 2 hours with waking. I don't care if you're on a graveyard shift, whatever's 2.5 hours from waking, water, black coffee, tea, no supplements, no thyroid medication, no nothing. Take all that stuff after. And that's the most accurate test. Do not get tested in the afternoon. Do not take thyroid hormones. If you take them, wake up and go get your test taken and get a false one. That's the way to do it. Now, all of this information is through stuff that I offer on my website, but I always like to throw it down here because if you're listening and you've had a thyroid problem, or you're on thyroid hormone replacement and you're still not feeling right, your doctor's going, well, I don't know what to tell you. It looks good to me. You need to look back at your labs. Did they test all the things I just mentioned? I would be willing to bet $1 million, 99.9% of you will be missing something on there. And it's probably a critical thing. Most doctors only test TSH and T4. So you need to, if you're listening now and you're struggling, you need to look back at all of your blood tests. Did they test everything I mentioned? I doubt they did, or you would be well, because they would be someone in the know like me who'd be able to help you. So I know that was a long rant, but I like to get the whole little quick synopsis of it. And if you have any questions for me, I mean, obviously there's so much to this topic that I did a 30-hour course, which is a semester in college, but you can learn enough in a very brief period of time. There's been people that have just listened to multiple interviews like this of me and have figured it out.
You have blown my mind, Elle. And one of the things I really love about you and listening to you and following you is you have this ability to take really complex information and distill it in a way that's accessible and easy to understand and allows people to take their health back into their own hands. And so I just want to thank you greatly for that because it's a beautiful gift and it's very rare. Now, once we have these tests and we take our health into our own hands or we feel that we have been misdiagnosed, what is the next step? What is the solution here?
Well, my book, The Paleo Thyroid Solution, is the reason I put it in there is, look, you try the natural stuff first, okay? However, there's a caveat here. Have you been struggling for 3 years trying to do natural stuff and your thyroid levels are horrible? Well, at that point, guess what? You better get on thyroid hormone replacement. Like, you need to do it, right? Because when you're too long in that disease state, and by the way, this is what happens. Someone will come to me. They're like, I've been trying for 3 years of doing this, then I did detox, and I did that. And their levels are so bad. They're such in a disease state. I'm like, how did you think the detox went? You're trying to put a detox on a body that's not working right.
Yeah.
It's a mind F thing. You
Yeah.
think it's like with hypothyroidism, often it's very rare that someone doesn't, but you gain insidious weight because you don't have enough of the fat burning thyroid hormone to burn fat. It's one of the worst symptoms that there is because you keep getting bigger. So you keep going to the gym, but you keep getting fatter, but you keep going to the gym because in your mind you go, but these are the things I do. Yeah, those are the things you do when you have a normal metabolism, when you're not hypothyroid. So how do you do that? You fix the thyroid problem. Every single one of them is fixable, manageable, solvable. Period. End of story. It just is. Now, the only time that it would be extremely complicated, or where you still might have lingering situation, is where someone's had a thyroid problem, they solved it, but then they've got Lyme disease, or they've got, and okay, so those other things are going to cause the problem, but at least they fixed the thyroid level, so the body is in a primordial baseline, ready to receive all of the stuff you're giving it, whether it's a supplement, whether it's a detox, etc. So hopefully that kind of answered it
Oh,
a little bit.
totally. Absolutely. I do want to come back to the paleo component
Oh
that you
yes, sorry.
promote, right? And let's talk about diet and nutrition in supporting the thyroid.
Sure. So the reason it's called the Paleo Thyroid Solution, and it's not just a gimmick like, you gain all this fat because you were hypothyroid and this is the way to lose it. That is part of it. Okay. That is absolutely part of it. Because when you're hypothyroid, you have no thyroid hormones, meaning you have no energy. So what happens is your adrenal glands will take over and they will overproduce cortisol and adrenaline. You'll get fat around the middle. And in this process, you are craving sugar and carbs like a food addict. You feel you've become a food addict. At one point, I thought I'd have to join Overeaters Anonymous. I was like, oh my God, I'm thinking about food all the time. Now I don't ever think about it. And so I thought something was wrong with me. But hypothyroidism almost creates an eating disorder based on what I just told you. So, yeah, I know it's so horrible because, and here's the thing that people say when they fix the problem, whether it's naturally or they get on thyroid hormone replacement to fix it, they'll call me and they'll say things like, "I'm eating so much more. I'm satiated. Like I don't even think." And I'm like, "Yeah." So if you're someone that's like, in the paleo community, we talk about getting fat adapted, which is moving from a glucose dependent, most of the world, sugar burner, who's running on sugar really as your main macronutrient kind of, to going to be a fat burner, which that process can take a couple of weeks to sort of switch your body around and get your brain unaddicted to crack, which is the glucose. So how does it correspond with thyroid hormones? All right, so paleo primal or ancestral health, the way that we do the macros there, because it's essentially a high fat, moderate protein, low carb diet, or even high protein, moderate fat, low carb diet. It is almost the ultimate in adrenal management and glucose management. When you're a sugar burner and you have to eat every 2, 3 hours or you're going to pass out or you have a drop, that's when you know you've got a problem. And people go, well, I'm hypoglycemic. I'm like, you're hypoglycemic because of your diet. you made yourself. So here's what happens. Like the person that has to eat every 2, 3 hours and they're hangry.
Yeah.
So the 3 hours on the plane and they're like, oh my God, I got to eat. They eat. Okay, see, the adrenals do not like that. They do not like this up and down. So like you drop and then the adrenals, right? And then you go up and then so this is all conflicting. And so when you are living a paleo primal lifestyle, you are steady. Your glucose is steady. So if you don't eat for 8 hours, you're not freaking out because you're fat adapted, because at hour 3 Now the fat off of my thighs is fueling my brain and fueling me versus me about to fall asleep crashing out because, oh my God, I didn't eat. If that's you, you are a sugar burner, and that is something you can change. So that's primal paleo is all about. What did our modern hunter-gatherer ancestors? We've been evolving for 2.5 million years. We modern humans like us were around 150,000 years ago, at least that we know of, and our diet really didn't change up until about 10,000 years ago during the agricultural revolution. And so when we talk about paleo primal, we talk about eating a diet and living a lifestyle that is in line with what our DNA as a human expects of us. Because no one ever walks by a barn and be like, why isn't that horse getting a ribeye? You would never feed a horse a ribeye. And someone would go, well, why? And the person would say, well, because they're not designed for that. Their DNA expects something else of them. And our DNA expects animals, plants, nuts, seeds, and it is not, and what is offensive to it are grains. Now, really quick, what we do know for sure is that the gluten in grains is absolutely related to almost every autoimmune disorder, okay? Whether it's MS, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's thyroid. When you have Hashimoto's, one of the biggest things that paleo comes in is quitting the gluten. We always say to quit grains, but sometimes that's really hard for people. So grains would also be white rice, but white rice doesn't have gluten in it. But paleo eliminates all grains. But at the very minimum, if you have Hashimoto's, you've got to eliminate gluten because there's a protein in gluten that has molecular mimicry. And so when your immune system is already making a mistake because you have an autoimmune disorder, then what happens is you eat gluten and it goes, oh my God, and the antibodies go up and it's trying to murder your thyroid gland. That's all autoimmune disorders. So MS, your immune system makes a mistake and starts attacking the myelin sheath around the nerves, and then you get weird symptoms. So if you eat gluten, you're asking for that response, and you can cut your antibodies in half or lower them to even undetectable levels and avoid going on thyroid hormone replacement through diet alone. So when you catch Hashimoto's earlier, the paleo component of no gluten or the elimination of grains is very important. It also eliminates all the offensive seed oils, so we focus on in paleo, beef tallow, duck fat. We don't do canola or corn oil, these highly oxidized oils. We use olive oil, avocado oil, butter, real butter.
Yep.
So even if you just eliminated all the crappy oils and got rid of gluten, but even kept grains just to like cheat for a bit, you'd still be better off than 99% of the world. And so anyway, but the reason it's so conducive with thyroid, not just the gluten element, it's because it is the ultimate in adrenal and glucose management, and that works really well with the metabolization of thyroid hormones. So whether you take thyroid hormones every day like me, or whether you want your own thyroid hormones that are being pumped out in the right amounts, if you want them to go to the places they need to go efficiently and do its job, which you do, knowing it's the master gland, then living that paleo primal type of baseline is ideal for that.
Al, you have been the most phenomenal wealth of information. I feel like I want to sit here and listen to you for hours and hours and hours. Just so the listeners know, you very kindly gave us your free thyroid, the thyroid video masterclass for everyone here to go and watch and look into and just really understand what's going on. Where else can everyone find you? Because you are like a magical gift.
Thank you so much. Well, I just also want to say this, everyone. Look, I'm talking about this like it's so easy. I cried every day for years. I lost 7 years of my 30s. I just turned 50. I lost 7 years of my 30s to hypothyroidism. I had a polyp that developed in my uterus that had to be removed, all because of hypothyroidism. I understand the horrific life that it is to be hypothyroid. I'll never forget. And I just want everyone to know I suffered with about 30 to 40 symptoms, and it was horrific. So even though I'm better now, I will never forget, and I really empathize. So I want to let everyone know that. ElleRuss.com is my website. I am mostly on Instagram when it comes to social media, even though I'm on a lot of the other platforms. And then, of course, every week I have a podcast. I do solo episodes, and I also interview people meant to inspire, motivate, and educate. And that's the Elle Russ Show on podcast or wherever, Apple or wherever you get your podcast.
Oh, thank you, Al. Thank you for being a speaker at RevitalFest. Your energy and everything about you is magnetic and contagious. And I'm so grateful to have had you here. Thank you.
Thank you.